that Sharia, or that his faith's doctrine of supremacy, had anything to do with it. In fact, most recently they've described it to the Congress as an incident of workplace violence.
That's right.
Now, I mean, this is just, again, illustrative of the larger problem that I suspect you're here to talk about. And what this book is designed to do is to try to explain what, in fact, the threat is. What, in fact, is going on here. And the course that we'll be unveiling with the two leaders of the 19 people, national security eminences, many of them, and other experts. General Jerry Boykin, a truly great American. In fact, one of the greatest of Americans, as you probably know, formerly commanded our Army Special Forces and was commander of the Delta Force, the most elite military unit in the country. Also served as a deputy undersecretary for intelligence under President Bush. And the other co-leader, a fellow by the name of General Ed Soyster, who used to run the Defense Intelligence Agency. These two guys are going to join me in rolling out this course based on this book, which discusses the missing piece without which you can't answer the question, what's wrong with these pictures? What's wrong with how we are waging what I think of as the war for the free world? Some call it, the war on terror. Some call it now countering violent extremism, lest we give offense to anybody. But the truth of the matter is, it is a war for everything we hold dear. And if you don't have the piece that's missing in the mix, you can't understand who the enemy is, let alone do anything appreciable to defeat them. So I'm going to go through very quickly kind of the essence of the problem, and then just spend some time with you with very short form, the bottom line of this course, what we need to be doing about it. Because I believe that if you are awakened by this meeting, by what you've heard from Khalim and others, you will want to do something about it. I pray you will. Okay, so very quickly, here we are. Sharia. It is not simply law, though it is usually referred in that way. And it certainly isn't simply what, the personal pietistic practice of Islam entails. It can be that, and for many Muslims, it is, including many, I think, in this country. Unfortunately, for the authorities of Islam, the mainstream of Islam, it is actually a practice, a guide, a directive for how everything in the world has to be organized, from the individual to truly the globe. It is totalitarian. It is brutally repressive. And it is supremacist, which means that every Muslim has to be forced to submit to it, and so do the rest of us. And that's not pretty. As I say, it doesn't apply to everybody. The ones it doesn't apply to, I believe, at least potentially, can be tolerant and peaceable and law-abiding and patriotic Americans. I know some of them. We need more of them, particularly those like Dr. Zuhdi Jasser, who have the courage to stand up and be counted in all of those categories. Unfortunately, that's not permissible under Sharia, and the guys who do adhere to it have to not only consider people like Zuhdi Jasser and Karima as apostates, they have to try to force every one of us to get with their program. And again, that's not a happy prospect. These guys, the Muslim Brotherhood, about whom you are hearing more and more, because they're taking over in places like Egypt with our help. They are the prime movers around the world today behind the effort to impose Sharia worldwide to accomplish what? To achieve two things, basically, that global dominance and the reestablishment of a caliphate which will govern the world in accordance with it. This is what we learned is the Muslim Brotherhood's mission in America as a result of a providential discovery of the archives back in 2004. This dates to 1991. What it says in clear, plain English, is the Muslim Brotherhood's mission in America is to destroy it from within by our hands. And this course that I'm referring to, and by the way, on Tuesday, if you want to check it out, and I hope you will, go to MuslimBrotherhoodInAmerica.com. This course will show you how they are executing this mission under our noses with very considerable effect. Not least by virtue of bringing about a program that insinuates itself into every one of our civil society and governing institutions. And this has happened under, I'm sorry to say, both Republicans and Democrats. And we can get into this in greater detail if you'd like. I will simply mention in passing, because I feel constrained to warn you about one of the people that has been most directly involved in the Muslim Brotherhood influence operation against conservatives and Republicans. And this may astonish you. His name is Grover Norquist. And you would forgive me for finding it incredible myself, except I happened to share office space with him for 7 years. And I watched it happen. A Muslim Brotherhood front was run out of his office. So we have a problem on both sides of the aisle. It has contributed materially to the fact that we don't understand this threat. We dare not name it, and we cannot defeat, as Sun Tzu said 5,000 years ago, an enemy we cannot know. So I'm going to just now quickly turn to what needs to be done about it. The course makes clear that there are 3 levels at which people like you can make a difference in the face of this kind of threat. And again, it's a threat to everything we hold dear, most especially to the kind of country we are going to bequeath to our children and our grandchildren. So let's just take them in turn. What can we do as individuals? What can we do as people participating in groups and organizations? What can we do as a nation if we come together behind corrective action? Okay, this is fairly self-evident, I think. Get informed. Check out the book. Check out the course. Check out some of the other materials and resources, including those that my friend Tom Trento, who is here with the United West, a member of our team, B2, has produced. Get trained in how you can counter it. Tom is doing some exciting work in that space. Develop a network of your friends, your colleagues, your family members, for that matter, both to support you in what you're doing and to increase your impact. Make sure, particularly during this election season, that the people who either represent you or want to represent you know what you know, or will. Hold them accountable for knowing it too. They either have or they will take an oath, something along the lines of supporting, defending, upholding, protecting the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic. If they don't think you care about that, they won't live up to that oath of office. Not all of them, but enough of them. We've got to make sure that they know you care. Media and so on I can get to if you want in Q&A. What can we do as organizations? Obviously, there's much more that you can do if you have the force multiplier behind you of a community. This is what we talk about in the course, and we won't have time to do justice to it. Maybe you can read it, maybe you can't. But these are 8, I believe, techniques that the Muslim Brotherhood is using right now to destroy us from within. I'm going to just give you the antidotes to that in every one of those categories. Again, you can take a look at this at your leisure after Tuesday at MuslimBrotherhoodInAmerica.com. But let me just focus on one. Because as people of faith, you've got a special problem here, as you may have discovered. You familiar with this? These guys are bridge builders. They are driven by the left on the one hand and by the Muslim Brotherhood on the other. The Muslim Brotherhood, interestingly enough, derives the term bridge building from one of its most important and influential ideologues, a fellow by the name of Sayyid Qutb, wrote a book called Milestones. In the book, he makes the point that the chasm between the believers and the infidels is so vast that no bridge can be built to span it except for the purpose of bringing the infidels to Islam. In other words, folks, the next time you hear one of your clerics or some other member of the faith community standing up and talking about their commitment to bridge building, know that they are being duped or they are submitting. Either way, again, it's not good for the rest of us. This is another way of thinking of it. But are you familiar with this phenomenon? Move over, Jesus. Muhammad's coming in. Chrislam is a particularly insidious phenomenon inside the church. Anyway, you get the point. This is something that people of faith have a special capacity to contend with and need to. And I think it's especially important in light of the challenges that we're facing from some of the leaders of the faith community who simply are, again, don't get it or are on the wrong side. The congregations in their communities obviously have a special ability to influence them, those leaders, to say, as my friend Jerry Boykin and Karim say, why would you invite Muslims into your facilities to hold services if, among other things, they're consecrating that facility to Islam as part of their service? And, in the process of their prayers, calling for the death of Christians and Jews. I mean, does anybody in their right mind think that's ecumenicalism? That's bridge building of any value at all? But I think there are people outside of the faith community or outside of the specific congregations that can also, in respectful but resolute ways, put pressure on these people to become knowledgeable themselves about what's really going on here. And that will, I think, help ensure corrective action. Finally, as a nation, a lot of things that need to be done here. And again, in an election season, you have a unique opportunity to impress upon the people who want your vote what matters to you. If you will tell them that these sorts of things, living up to their oaths of office, for starters, designating the Muslim Brotherhood as a terrorist organization, or at least as a hostile force. Critically important to fixing a lot of these other things. Ensuring that the people who are training those responsible for protecting us are not being trained either to the requirements of, or in some cases actually by, the Muslim Brotherhood, which, incredible as it may seem, is what is afoot right now. There's places where we need some legislation. There are very important efforts afoot to put more mosques that will be used for more seditious activities in some symbolic places like Ground Zero. That must be resisted. But should it be in other communities as well, where these places are, as the New York Police Department itself has found, incubating jihadism. Let me just close with sort of one focus for what we cannot allow to happen in this country. In Europe today, there are areas, large areas in some countries, 750 of them in France alone, where the authorities of the country dare not go because it's too dangerous. And in those places, these Muslim-only communities, the laws of the land no longer apply, only Sharia. That's coming to America, folks. We're next if we don't resist what these guys are doing and stop submitting to it. Starting with not noticing that it's happening. In Dearborn, in Maine, in Minnesota, in Tennessee, and in a lot of other places, including something on the order of 35 camps that an outfit called Jamaat al-Fuqra has established across this country and in Canada. Jamaat al-Fuqra is the product of a cultish Islamist out of Pakistan by the name of Mubarak Jilani, who has described these camps as state-of-the-art terrorist training facilities. Well, you might ask the question, why is that allowed? Let me just tell you this. In 2006, the Justice Department issued a report stating about these camps, quote, that Jamaat al-Fuqra has more than 35 suspected communes and more than 3,000 members spread across the United States, all in support of one goal, the purification of Islam through violence, unquote. So it's not like we don't know this is going on. And for that matter, there's a terrific film. I mean, it's sort of low production value, as they say, but it's a great little film called Homegrown Jihad Terrorist Training Camps Around the U.S. Check it out. It will show you the film of Sheikh Jilani training his terrorists, many of whom, by the way, were recruited to jihad and Islam in our prison system by clerics who were brought there by a Muslim brother who is now in the slammer himself, also an Al-Qaeda financier, the fellow who put Grover Norquist in business on behalf of the Muslim Brotherhood, Abdurrahman Alamudi. So, to close, we need to make sure that this doesn't happen here, folks. If it is happening, we need federal law, or at least federal enforcement of the law that prevents it. We need you to talk to Alan West and other people, he gets it, believe me, but others who may represent you who don't, about this, and make sure that they live up to their oath of office. Let me close with this. I had the privilege of serving President Reagan a long time ago. 51 years ago, he said the following: freedom is never more than one generation away from extinction. We didn't pass it to our children in the bloodstream. It must be fought for, protected, and handed on for them to do the same. Or one day, we will spend our sunset years telling our children and our children's children what it was once like in the United States where men were free. Those are words to live by, my friends, and to fight for. Thank you.
Thank you, Frank. I apologize for the disjointed introduction and presentation. Actually, there wasn't, we had some problems with the video, but we're going to go ahead and introduce Kamal again with this video, and he's going to make his remarks.
I believe there is no country like United States of America. I traveled under Islam, and our theology was to turn every nation and tongue into 7th century theology and understanding, to take humanity back to the camel's day and a goat and a chicken, where the woman will be slave to her husband and the children will become milk and cow to the father, and where Islam can change anything at any time and declare its power. In looking at Islam today, Islam will destroy Islam because Islam is the cancer to the whole world. And when I came to the United States of America, after I traveled the world up and down, I really thought I came to the first place that this is what heaven will be like. The land of milk and honey. The land of plenty. But the worst thing was about all this land and the beauty, the people are so happy that they forgot what it's all about. They start worshiping the blessings instead of worship the blessed one. And what happened is they became weak in all their standards because they tried to enslave themselves to the blessings. And when we came here to the United States of America, many people don't understand what we bring in here to the United States at that time was to destroy this civilization. The mosques ourselves. When a mosque is open in the United States of America, the mosque is not like the church or synagogue. The mosque itself is the parliament of Islam. This is where they take their commands. This is where they are initiated over there. This is where recruitment takes place. This is where we recruited radicals over there. We went to the moderate and we brought them into the radical. Mosques are radical places. When a mosque is built, what happened is that area become a holy land. So what happened, it's 8 blocks in surrounding become holies of holies. So next thing they will introduce the second part of the trilogy. And that is the Islamic Center. What is the Islamic Center? The Islamic Center is the invasion place where it's called Rabat. Rabat is what happened to mosque, Ground Zero Mosque, which is, they don't call it mosque, they call it Islamic Culture Center. That is a place where Islam has conquered, and this is where Islam will pursue the nation from there. And when that second place is built, then Islamic school must take place, because the Islamic Center will become the Islamic Sharia law court instantly. So what is this? They established their Supreme Court in the land. So when the school is built, and now they have this school, it creates triangle. It's called the trilogy. And that becomes a settlement. The settlement is nothing for is nothing for the American people or the people of the land, because it's an invasion factor into our civilization. From there, what happened once that taken place? Sharia law will be established. Now, Sharia law is not just a government. Sharia law tells the Muslim how to eat, how to drink, how to blow their nose, how to go to the bathroom, how they clean themselves, how to get married, what they do when they sleep with their spouses, how many times to pray, where they face, what they do, what they say. Everything is conducted to them. There is nothing outside of Sharia law for any human to do. As a matter of fact, the highest class in Sharia law, in Islam, if you question Islam on any level or step on your own, or if you question Allah, so what would happen, that would be you become kafir, infidel, instantly. That theology, that dogma in Islam, it's called al-wala' wal-bara'ah. Al-wala' wal-bara'ah is to love what Allah loved and Muhammad, and to hate what Allah and Muhammad hated. So if Muhammad killed 800 Jewish people in Bani Qurayza in Saudi Arabia, behead them, now it's legal for all Muslims to kill. If he married 6-year-old girl, who her father became the first caliphate to Islam, what happened? It's legal for all Muslims to marry a young girl. Whatever he did, whatever Allah commanded, it is the only way. And that is the higher place, the higher commandment. So we're coming to the place, one, and if Sharia law is allowed into the United States of America, the First Amendment will have to be broken, because it become hate crime bill. The Article 6 of the United States of America, and that's the Constitution of the United States for those who do not know what it is. It is the law of the land. What happened? It will be no longer be able to step on its own. So therefore, the Constitution have to be brought down, and establishing fascism will have to take place. Why? Because Islam is a fascist place, just like Nazism or any other fascist religion. Sharia law is is what we have to fight. That's the first thing. If we have to come against anything that is a bill introduced in every state so far, almost every state, and that is the anti-foreign law bill. We must educate ourselves on this. The second one is the immigration bill. The immigration bill is not against the Hispanic per se. Many people think it's against the Hispanic. No, it's not. On the contrary, our president been sending millions to Hamas to import Muslim people to the United States of America. And if that law passed, yes ma'am, check your media, Google that. He just sent $23 million just recently to Hamas, just this year. We are, we're about to bankrupt, and he's sending money to the Muslims. So what happened is he's trying to import them to the United States of America to throw the power of conservatism and the church out and God people. So what happened is they will become the upper hand or the equal hand. Because if you read the Muslim Brotherhood theology and their memorandum that they came to destroy the United States of America with is to populate the United States of America with a multitude of millions of Muslims. So what happened is, when they are here, the Sharia law bill, what happened when he allowed, in the name of, the Hispanic people, Mexican people, let's make them American. Now all the illegal Muslim will be legalized in here, and terrorism will be legal in the United States of America. This is what you have to watch for, is who is he bending down to kiss, whose hand is he kissing? So the hand that he's kissing is the hand he's serving. Ultimately, he wants the United States of America to be destroyed from unipolar power to be what? Nothing. So the multipolar culturalism, which is multitude of nations, take place, and what happened? World War III is upon us, because everybody will have to have their way now. So we're coming to the place, it's a critical point. 2012 is a year of government. Is a year of government. Last year, I believe with all my heart that God has drawn the line in the sand between many different things. This year, it's drawn between His people, who's on my side and who's not. It's time to make our voices known, and time to stand up straight and fight for it. Because ultimately, the whole world, just like my brother Frank said, this world will become past tense. And one day, you'll be wearing ragheads and walking on the street. And everybody will say, that used to be a Christian country where Islam conquered here. We are coming to a place where I'm fighting for freedom. This is my last frontier. That should be your last frontier. This is your home. What Frank said, there are several things. I don't want to go further. I want to open for question and answer just to honor what we said earlier. But here's the thing. Our involvement is very, very important. The Bible says, my people perish for the lack of knowledge. Knowledge is number one, what Frank said. Get yourself, learn about this. But the second one is a full engagement. Let your voice be heard, because do you know in Islam, when the people of the country are not saying anything, they consider their God has prevailed over that nation because the people have been smitten by their God. And so therefore Islam believe that they have won the battle. Do you know that every place in our government has been saturated and infiltrated? Every place. Do you know that your education system now owned by Islamic organization? Do you know your book curriculum are teaching your children that the Muslim are the first people who found the United States of America? They're teaching your children all kind of things, that Allah is the God of the world. They're teaching your over 170 curriculum in our education books today are being taught to our children and our grandchildren against this nation, to fight this nation. They're separating the children, just as Satan became the first orphan son of God. Today, Islam is trying to make American children orphan from their nation and to turn them against their nation. Today, it's on our shift. And I will not take any more because I feel that there's so many questions over there, so I'd better hush.
All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to transition into our Q&A. We're going to move over here to these stools. If you could take your microphones with you. We do have a microphone in the audience, so if you have a question, raise your hand. And I'm going to start with the first question for these gentlemen that I've had start off with. And that is, when I was involved with Rifka Berry's case, it became apparent to me from a person on the outside that it seemed to me, and this may seem counterintuitive because it's a criticism of both the left and the right, but it seemed to me that we had two things happening. We had conservatives in the counter-jihad movement criticizing all of Islam without distinguishing between those who are here that are completely westernized and would only raise their hand in a survey, and the devout and the radicals. And then the media is doing the opposite. They are defending all of Islam without distinguishing between these three groups. And in my talks with Mark Gabriel, he made me aware of these three groups. Do you agree with this division? And what are your comments on distinguishing between them, at least rhetorically in the public square, to at least give some a refuge to those who are here and wish to abide by our laws and be peaceful?
There are three different groups. I see your hand, sir. We'll come to you. The gentleman over there lifted up his hand, and we'll come to him soon. There are three groups. There are the Zalat Islamic, and the Zalat Muslims, they count today from 28% to 32% on different reviews, like the Pew and different things. They're on the other hand over there. These are Zalat, which is over 400 million. They believe non-Muslim must be destroyed and killed, according to the Pews and any, several other, like McKinsey report and what so have you. But then you have two other class of Muslim. The middle class, it's called the moderate Muslim. This has been infiltrated because a lot of Zalats call themselves moderate. CARE, for example, Council of American Islamic Relations, they consider themselves moderate. I'm going like, yes, and my name is not Kamal. And so what happened is that rank, they are truly, moderate Muslim over there, and these Muslims do not want Sharia law. These guys do not care for it, but the other part is infiltrating that brand and playing that brand because it's a cattle strategy, drive them out. So they drive the moderate, to do different things in Islamic for the love of Allah and Islam. The last one is the social Muslim structure, which is like, Dr. Zohdi Jasser, like Dr. Hamid, like me and many other. We don't want, like Islam is your thing if you want to practice it. Do not enforce it. Do not subjugate anybody else about it. Do not make it, the law of the land. The Zalat and part of the moderate, they believe in subjugating, 75% plus of Sharia law is to subjugate non-Muslim to Islam. So we have to know this. And how will we know about this? The Word of God says you know them by their fruit. There's two kind of people. Those who are fruitful and those who are fruity. Watch for those who stink.
Frank, do you agree with that? Is there some danger to conceding, at least rhetorically in our debate, that there are Muslims here who are properly and wish to view their faith as a cultural expression, not as a strict adherence to the Quran?
Well, I happen to think this is perhaps as important an issue and question as any we'll talk about in the course of this program. Because it is certainly the case that you will find Muslims who represent themselves in just the way you've said, the second category, Kamal. You've got Muslim Brotherhood front organizations. And don't take my word for it. The book has, in its second appendix, entirely reprinted the Muslim Brotherhood's strategic plan.
Here.
Sharia, the Threat to America. And by the way, you can get it for free if you want to, shariathethreat.com. You can also get it at Amazon. But the second appendix is really the one thing you ought to go download and just read, because it's the essence of who these guys are and what they're up to. And the point is that they attached to it a list under the heading, Our Organizations and the Organizations of Our Friends. Now, admittedly, this was 20 years ago, but the 29 groups on that list still represent the most important Muslim American organizations in the country. There are a few that have been added since, but they're genetically linked to the ones on that list. And I mention that, John, because if you want to figure out whether you're dealing with Muslims who fall into the third category, let's call them the Zohdi Jassers, or you're dealing with people who are in one form or another, and I really don't think there's as much of a distinction, perhaps, between the zealots and the ones that are using taqiyya to conceal their zealousness.
That's right.
You've got that fault line. The fault line is Sharia. The guys who adhere to it are a problem. The guys who don't aren't the problem.
That's very helpful.
At least so far. And just last point, it is incredibly important that we help promote, encourage, empower, give prominence to the ones that aren't the problem. Instead of doing what we are doing, and believe me, if you can take a look at this course, it'll knock your socks off the extent to which this has been happening under, again, both Republican and Democratic administrations. We are doing nothing but legitimating the bad guys, the guys on that list, the Muslim Brotherhood Front organizations, the people who want to destroy us from within. This is insanity. And unless we wake up, talk about an awakening, unless we wake up and resist this, change course, some of the more dire predictions that Kamal has described will come to pass.
One quick follow-up, Khalil. Is it possible to see the Quran as a devotional religious book apart from allegiance to Sharia, or is it one and the same in your view?
No, you can't, because the Quran itself, it's part of the Sharia. Sharia has a trilogy. It's made from three parts. The first part is called the Hadith. The Hadith is tradition of Muhammad, the Prophet of Islam, and that is 60% of Sharia law. The second one is the Sirah, which is the smallest part, Quran, which is the biography of Muhammad himself. And the biography is everything that Muhammad did and he did not say. The last one is the Quran, which is 14% of the Sharia law. The Quran itself and the Sharia law, it's a progressive movement, because here's what happened. Islam, usually, there's a doctrine in Islam, it's called an-nasikh wal-mansukh, which is what came before and what Allah abrogated. Abrogated mean replaced. What happened when Islam came at the beginning in Mecca, Islam was peaceful religion. There, Muhammad says Islam is a peaceful religion, and he said, people, if you kill somebody, you kill the nation. He said, there's no, everybody lived the same. But when he left Mecca and he went to Medina, at that time it's called Yathrib. Yathrib changed to Medina, which became first Al-Qaeda. This first Al-Qaeda was built where Muhammad went. Muhammad went from being a messenger of peace to became a warlord. And from warlord, he became a leader to destroy humanity. And his progressive knowledge became from peaceful, where Allah said in the Quran, the Muslim holy book, he said, I have changed my mind. And what I have given you before, it does no longer apply. So therefore, I'm replacing it with something better. And if you don't believe and if you don't follow me, you're going to go to hell. I'm going to destroy you. Wow. Because he's the God of fear. So what happened is, it's a replacement theology, and the way it walked in the United States of America, it's walking in peace, because at 2%, they will not do anything. But when they excel to a newer level, it's going to become more radical, and they're going to start saying Islam is here to become the government.
That's fascinating. Let's go to our first question. 30 seconds, please, and questions, not speeches, unless you're Tom Trento and you can make a speech. Go ahead.
Gentlemen, first of all, thank you for your time and being here. My name is Marcus. I'm the editor of South Florida Conservative in Miami. In Miami, we had a situation where there was a mosque or center where they were being surveilled by the federal government. In fact, they were taped because their imams were communicating with some people in Pakistan. And in fact, they were taped saying that they were glad that they had killed American soldiers through their contributions to all these madrasas and facilities in Pakistan. Yet, this center still remains open in Miami. My question to you is, how can we as individual citizens, how can we create microcosms or micro-seminars of what you're doing in our location so we can help awaken the consciousness of our citizens locally and alert them to this clear and present danger that is about to irretrievably, through the administration and through other forces, destroy and alter our republic as it stands today?
Well, again, at the risk of repeating what I said earlier and touting this set of products as one way to help, get knowledgeable. You've got to be smart about what it is we're up against. You've got to be able to articulate it in a credible, reasoned way. And you need to be trained in countering what people who are very highly trained at waging their civilization jihad against us in order to compete effectively. And recognize, as Tom Trento and Mark Campbell and others here can attest, they will push back very hard at you personally. They will threaten you. They will describe you as a racist, a bigot, an Islamophobe, and the like. So this is not a bowl of cherries, folks. And I wouldn't recommend it except for the fact that, as I said earlier, everything we hold dear is on the line. So specifically to answer your question, I think that there are some training ideas here or targeting efforts that can be made in the course at MuslimBrotherhoodInAmerica.com. But just see, in the meantime, Tom Trento, who does this for a living in Florida with the United West. Stand up, Tom.
And he's local, yes.
And he's the man here.
I really believe, just to top this a little bit, it starts with our responsibility, who we vote for. You know, when you find your agriculture department is building mosques all over the world by American tax dollars, there's something wrong with that. So to take your city back is what Frank said, it's going to have to be a coalition, come with understanding. So this way, they were not attacking your character per se, per one person, and destroying you, because that's how they come at you. To destroy what you're saying, they destroy your character, so nobody will listen to what you're saying. You're going to have to come as a coalition and learn and fight the good fight. Knowledge is power.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I have a question. We're actually streaming this live on the internet. So for anybody who wants to watch this, you want to share this with other people, you can actually go to unitedwest.org and stream this video. And also, Frank,
Being streamed on unitedwest.org.
Yes.
Okay, very good.
The United.
So you can Facebook and tweet that link so
Yep.
you can get the next 15
And it's
minutes of the
stream-
program.
Right. The UnitedWest.org. Yeah.
Great outfit.
Question.
And, well, I have a question actually from Arizona. So they say, why are the Muslims trying to fight anti-Sharia law built in the USA? If they revere our Constitution, they should want to pass it, unless they really want to have Sharia law introduced. So what is your opinion
Let
on that?
me take that if I may. The law that several of us have referred to has the outrageous title of American Laws for American Courts. I know, a crazy idea, but it is now being fought tooth and tong by people in this state like Ahmed Badir, formerly of the Council on American Islamic Relations, now with what's the front group he calls himself? The United Voices, not to be confused with the United West. Ahmed Badir is a Muslim brother who takes credit for having defeated the enactment of this law that says not just Sharia, but any foreign law that violates our constitutional rights can't be practiced in the courts of the state of Florida. And in the last moments of the just completed legislative session here in Florida, he and his friends succeeded in snuffing that law. Now, why is this important? It's important, I think, in the first place, because obviously we shouldn't have laws practiced in our courts, imposed by our courts, that violate notably women's and children's rights, because they don't do so well under Sharia, as you may have noticed. But for that matter, neither should any other transnational law be imposed here. But the Muslim Brotherhood has gone to general quarters to try to prevent the enactment of this law for two reasons. One, everywhere there's a real debate about it, legislators and to some extent the public learn more about Sharia. And secondly, it will complicate what they're trying to do with their stealth jihad, which is to insinuate Sharia into our courts and get the courts to begin legitimating it and adopting it as a parallel set of laws, which goes right to the points that we've been talking about, whether it's no-go zones or whether it's the schools or whether it's the churches or whether we didn't get into this, the capital markets or our government. These guys are trying to destroy us from within by bringing their codes, their laws, their practices here and pretending, and this is, if I leave you with one thought, this is it, by pretending that this is all about faith, when in fact, this is about power, getting it from us and destroying the country that we love.
Next question over here.
Come on. I'm an ex-Muslim, born-again Christian. Find the Bible in the streets of Orlando 34 years ago. Radical Muslim, dressed up like a Ayatollah Khomeini. I'm from Iran, and I'm the only pastor of Iranian church in the state of Florida, right in this church. This is my home church for 35 years. I want to give you a warning by the word of God. If we sleep, too late to wake up. When I came to the United States in 1977, I thought this is the greatest country that I can live free. But unfortunately, the tide has been shifted toward overseas. And now, this great nation looking for 911 called. I ask you to study the Quran. If you do not study the Quran, you're going to lose it quickly. Do you know where 911 came from? Go to Quran and find out Surah 9, verses 11, what he said. I'm teaching my congregation. If it was not for the Jews, we would not have the Bible in our hand today. If it was not for Moses who heard the voice of God, we would not be sitting over here. Ayatollah Khomeini said this when he came to Iran in 1977. We cannot fight the superpower. We cannot fight the power of America, but we must find a way, infiltrate underneath and destroy them. And they have done it, but they are not success. We must wake up before it's too late. This conference, I pray, Kamal, you and I, we know each other.
Thank you, sir.
I cannot go back home because my own brothers and sisters want to kill me. But I choose what Apostle Paul said, for me to live is Christ, but to die is gain. 2 weeks from today, I will be going to Israel to speak on the mountain of Olive with my wife. The only MBB, Muslim background believer, will be speaking at the Messianic Jewish in Jerusalem and in Bethlehem. If we don't wake up, we're going to lose what we have. I am willing to stand and pay the price. But if you do not get up, read 9:1:1. And also read Isaiah chapter 45. I want you, brother, to answer and tell to these people, they need to hear that more from us. We came from the other side of the bridge.
Yes. Listen,
Thank you.
We have the Quran. The Quran that he's talking about, the Muslim holy book, and there's nothing holy about it. You know, it is on our table on the second floor. It's called the Abridged Quran. We made it for the American people with easy understanding to digest. So get yourself a Quran and start reading it, because it's written from Islamic understanding and not Christian understanding. It's very important to educate yourself with those things. We have them over there.
Great. New rule, only apostate Muslims who have converted to Christianity can give speeches. And Tom Trento. Everybody else, 30 seconds. Go ahead. It's all right. No. You're part of the rule. I made a new rule for you.
This young man been lifting his hand from the beginning.
Okay. He's my son. I want to make sure he's got a good question. Go ahead. Yes, in the back. Go ahead.
A ringer.
There are two judges that put the Sharia law before the Constitution. One actually was in Tampa, Florida. His name was Judge Nielsen. The other one, I don't remember his name, but it was out of Mechanicsville, Pennsylvania. Is this not a bad thing that is happening? Is this not a door that is opening for Sharia law to enter and for the Constitution to go out the door?
Well, just quickly on this, because we have been supporting this American Laws for American Courts initiative around the country, some people have responded by saying, listen, this is a solution in search of a problem. There's no difficulty here. So we did a study. And, you know, you look at American jurisprudence, it's this huge body of activity. And so we just did a microcosm. We looked at 50 cases at the state appellate court level where somebody, the plaintiff or the defendant, tried to inject Sharia into the court proceedings. And we discovered, this is last year, and you can find out Sharia in AmericanCourts.com, that in 27 of those cases, in 23 different states, and you're right, one of them was here in Florida, the court used Sharia to adjudicate the problem. Mostly, as you might suspect, because it's kind of the entry level of this kind of effort, these were family court matters. So women and children were overwhelmingly the people who were getting very badly treated, not as American citizens, not under the Constitution of the United States, but in accordance with a body of laws that, frankly, the judges don't know anything about, but were nonetheless having imposed on them these rules, these requirements, these dictates that treat them as chattel or worse. And it's precisely for this reason, as this is happening. And by the way, an Islamist group calling itself the Sharia Index has now come out with its own study, and they say there are actually 70 cases that they've looked at. Some of them are the same ones we found, some of them were not. The difference is, aside from mischaracterizing some of the cases, they're wildly enthusiastic about the fact that Sharia is now being used increasingly in our courts. So if you don't want this to happen, folks, we need to turn up the heat on the people representing you and get this law enacted here and across the country.
You know, it's here's a picture. I'm going to draw it very simply. What they're trying to integrate into our laws is Roe versus Wade. Roe versus Wade. When they put this Islamic clause, and now we tracked 50. Now I'm going like there's 70. Wow. When they establish this, what happened is they will be able to bring Sharia law liberally in our face. That's why he said fight against those, everybody who's, any court that allows it, we need to demonstrate outside and say no Sharia law, but our Constitution.
Yes, in the back, sir.
I'm a Christian psychologist with emphasis on Christian. I serve this country in War II uniforms. I'm not afraid of anything because he's on my side. But I heard something on the radio just the other day that there were some congressmen being elected and were elected, and they were allowed to swear on the Quran.
Correct.
Rather than the Bible, and I was just wondering if you could comment on that.
Well, here's the thing. Muhammad says on his bed of death, he said, "Al-yawma akmaltu lakum dinakum wa raditu lakum al-islamu dina." I'm not speaking in tongue. It says, "Today I accepted to you Islam is the last and the final religion." And he said, "Whoever come with any other philosophy, religion, belief, it is not accepted from him." So anytime anyone's swearing on the Quran, he is swearing to abolish the nation that he's in, constitution, and establish Sharia law that is the Quran is part of it. So he's swearing to Allah and not swearing to God of heaven and earth that the Jews and the Christian abide in. That's correct.
Next question. Yes, ma'am. Go ahead.
Yeah, I wanted to ask a question. Is our President of the United States of America, Barack Hussein Obama, a Muslim?
Well,
Frank?
I'll answer it in this way. I want to give you a little texture on this. I've written a weekly column for a paper in Washington called the Washington Times for 24 years. Far and away, the most response I've ever gotten for any column, and that's, thousands, was one that I started off saying, if Bill Clinton, on the basis of special interest pandering and identity politics, could correctly be called America's first black president, then Barack Obama has to be considered America's first Muslim president. And I said, in the second sentence, hastily, I'm not saying necessarily that he is a Muslim any more than Bill Clinton is black. But the point is, truthfully, it doesn't matter. Because what he is doing, as you will see in this course, the longest of the 10 parts of this course, 2 hours long, is a drill down on how this president's policies in his White House, in the intelligence community, in the State Department, the Justice Department, the Defense Department, the Department of Homeland Security, even NASA, for heaven's sakes,
That's right.
has been directed to conform to the agenda of the Muslim Brotherhood in America. And
That's right.
some of that, no kidding, folks, is a function of him having hired Muslim brothers.
Yep.
But some of it, I think, is just coming from him. So I don't want to not answer your question. I think it's important because we can't really know. It's what you know by his fruits.
Yeah.
Well,
Exactly right.
Let me show you from the previous Muslim perspective. Before President Obama was elected, He was a senator, and many times when he pledged allegiance to the United States flag, he did this. In Islam, the Muslims do this 5 times a day, and this is what they say when they do this. They said, Inna salati wa nusuki wa mahyaya wa mamati. My prayer, my life, my meditation. Inna salati wa nusuki wa mahyaya wa mamati. And my death, lillahi rabbil alameen. To Allah, the God of this world. God of this world. La sharika lah. He doesn't have any other belief beside him. He is Allah and there's none like him. وَبِذَلِكَ أُمِرْتُهُ. And I've been commended by him. وَأَنَا أَوَّلُ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ. And I will die for him. This is what we pledge 5 times a day. So when somebody pledges the flag, American flag, and do this, tells me, okay, you're pledging to something else. That's number 1. Number 2, let's examine the Christmas before last Christmas. It happened, Christmas Day happened on Friday. Where was he on Friday morning, Christmas Day? The mosque down the street, where Ibrahim al-Abrasi, the guy, one of the head of the leaders of the Muslim Brotherhood, established in that mosque over there. This is where Obama was Friday morning in the mosque, and they took pictures of him. Why was he on that Friday? You know, that's when the Muslims gather and pray together on that day. Why was he there and not being in church as he said he is a Muslim? I mean, he's a Christian. Sometimes I forget his.
So did he one time, as a matter of fact.
I am going to comment on this. The American Indians, you know, they would have this saying when something like this, that is, white men speak with forked tongue. And as it comes to Barack Obama's religion, he appears to be really politically whatever you want him to be, because he's both proclaimed, I mean, Sammy Rodriguez, who you heard preach last night via video, will tell you that he's heard Barack Obama say, oh, I accepted Jesus Christ into my life, and has this very sincere testimony. But on the other hand, he's on national TV with George Stephanopoulos talking about my Muslim faith.
That's right.
And there's a whole collage of clips of him, you know, bowing and praying to Mecca. And so what is this? But
you don't understand. When the Muslims say we accept Jesus Christ, it is true. They accept Jesus Christ. But the Muslim believe Adam and Eve were Muslims. Moses was Muslim. Jesus was a radical Palestinian that he established in Islam. That we perverted and converted this. So in their book, it talks about Jesus Christ, but they believe he's a Muslim, and that's what he believes in.
But I think Frank's point is spot on. And you know, it's like Jimmy Carter. I don't care what you claim to be. The issue is what's your policies.
That's right.
And his policies
Can I just add one other point on this?
Go ahead, quickly.
In keeping with what we've just heard. As part of preparing this course, it's kind of based on a PowerPoint. So I've got a lot of slides like the ones that you've seen. And in the process, I went back and grabbed a lot of photographs. And I wanted to make a point about this business about swearing the oath, which I mentioned, you know, is a place where you can hold your elected officials accountable. And typed in Google Images, oath of office. And one of the first ones that comes up is President Obama swearing the oath of office. But interestingly enough, the one I tumbled upon was not him swearing the oath of office up on the Capitol steps. It was the one he took in the White House, which you may remember was necessitated because the Chief Justice screwed up the original oath of office, and they thought maybe, especially given a lot of us have had some apprehensions about this guy anyway, that he might not actually live up to his oath of office if he didn't get the right one. Well, they didn't quite put it that way, but let's say that's what they were thinking. So they take him back. He's in the White House, I think, on Inauguration Day. Chief Justice rolls through. And there's a photograph of Barack Obama taking the oath of office, but something's missing. There's no Bible.
Wow.
So, you know, does that speak to his preference of books? Does that speak to he's crossing his fingers or arms or whatever it is? I don't know. But I'm just saying to you, ma'am, it doesn't really matter. What you see him doing is what matters. The motivation is secondary. It's a problem for sure. But what he's doing and the fact that he's getting away with it. This is not a political setting, I don't think, and I'm not making a political statement. I'm just saying this is an opportunity, folks. We've got, 5 months or so left to decide whether we want more of this. And when we know where it is taking us even now, let alone where it would take us when, as he said on a hot mic to the president of Russia, he has more flexibility, God help us.
Right. Young man in the front row who bears a remarkable resemblance to me has a question.
How did the Muslim religion start, and why did they want to take over the world?
Wow.
Kalam?
Go.
That's a good question.
Yeah. Go get a lunch and let's. Okay. All the Muslims, they have two factions of Muslims that they call the Sufi and the Wahhabi. If you look at their flags, like the Muslim Brotherhood, they have two swords, and they have a green globe, and they have down under it's called Wa'audu, the return. We will return. The Saudi flag is a green flag, and it has the word La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah, and it's a green flag, and it says there's no God but Allah, Muhammad, His Prophet. And right under that, there's a sword. The two swords symbolize the two administration in Islam. One it's called Dar al-Harb, and the other one it's called Dar al-Salam. One of them the house of war, and one of them house of peace. Islam is commanded from its infiltrate is to the whole world to establish what's so-called Ummah. Ummah is what's so-called in English one world order under Allah. So Islamization must establish Ummah. So what happened when they conquered Spain? What they did, they captured the leaders. They boiled them in the city center. They chopped them to pieces. They nailed their feet and their arms and their head on trees all over the cities to let them know that Islam conquered here and put the fear in the people's heart. So what happened is Islam has those two administrations, House of War and House of Peace, that every country that is Muslim will go under that sword. The one it's not conquered will have to go under the sword of war. Islam must, there's no peace in Islam unless you accept Islam. And so therefore we come into place, Islam came to take over the world. That's what Muhammad said.
Is this the caliphate, or is this different than the caliphate? Is that this concept?
This is the caliphate. Okay. So the Muslim have great commission. This is what I really want you to know. Muhammad says, Inni umartu an uqatil al-shu'ub. I have been commanded by Allah to fight the people of the world. Until every person in the world says, La ilaha illallah wa Muhammad Rasulullah. There's no God but Allah, Muhammad, His Prophet. He said, if they do not concede to you, then their home, their nation, their finances, their women, their children, their land, everything belong to you as an inheritance. So therefore, we're fighting a doctrine today. It's been commissioned to the Muslims to take place, and those who are practicing Sharia law, like what he said, they are commissioned to finish the story. So that's a great question. I hope more young men like you will ask questions like this.
Thank you. All right. Here's how we're going to close. This is not planned until a moment ago, but if you are here and you lead a local organization that deals with these issues, I'd like you to come up here and stand right here. So that's Mr. Skubiak, Mike Trento, Alan. If you're here, any others that lead a local organization, an ACT or a United West chapter, if you just come up real quickly.
Tea Partiers?
Right here.
Anybody?
Well, no, just if you deal specifically with Islam.
Hey, listen, if you're dealing with protecting the Constitution of the United States under the banner of the Tea Parties, I hope that you'll consider this as something you have to be focused on as well, because it's a threat.
Here's what we're going to do. We're going to close 15 seconds, no more than 15 seconds. And in fact, I'm going to come down and hold the mic. Tell us who you are, your organization, what city you're in, and how folks can get in touch with you.
Cindy Ewell, and I'm with Eastern Orlando Tea Party, and we have had guests speak on Sharia law.
Peter Lee Tea Party?
No, this is Eastern Orlando Tea Party.
Also, Darlene Ramondi with the Eastern Orlando Tea Party.
Sherry Flynn, Space Coast Patriots in Merritt Island. Yes, it's spacecoastpatriots.org. And we also have an ACT group in Vieira. So
you can come up and talk to these folks if you want.
Tanya Ash, and I'm with Tom Trento with United West.
I'm Linda Ucklinger, and I am with 912 Brevard County, and also with Active America. I am leading a team of other parents that are involved in our school textbooks and trying to get the correct information into the school textbooks.
Yay.
My name is Roger Gangitano, and I'm with the United West, and I'm proud to do a presentation on the Muslim Brotherhood for the United West.
Tom Trento, Italian guy from New Jersey.
UnitedWest.org.
Mike Skubiak, chapter leader of ACT for America, Central Florida. We meet generally the fourth Thursday of the month. We're going to have a meeting this Thursday, Life of Muhammad. Please come to our meetings and learn a lot about Islam. Come as a group, Active America.
Does ACT have a national website that has all the chapters on it? Okay, and that is called, what's the website for ACT?
Google Act for America.
Okay, very good. Okay.
Alicia Andrews, Emerald Coast Christian Church, yahoo.com, Act for America, Pensacola, Navarre Patriots. Brigitte Gabriel will be speaking at the Emerald Coast Convention Center September 11th of this year. You're all welcome to come to Fort Walton Beach. Thank you.
Bob Behrens with the Naples Tea Party. I'm quite concerned about new information about the Homeland Defense building and storing ammunition and weapons at all major airports that are ready to be transported around the country wherever they're needed.
Marco Sendon, editor, SouthFloridaConservative.com, and also very proud to announce of a new PAC called Florida Action Network. We're ready to launch and take the offensive with our values and principles and bring them to all rather than play defensive action and allow them to brand us as racist, sexist, bigoted, homophobes. We're going to take the offensive and take back our republic, folks. God bless America.
Kathy Gibson. I'm one of the Eastern Orlando Tea Party co-founders, but I'm also with the executive board of the Florida Alliance, which is one of the largest coalitions of Tea Party and 912s in the state of Florida, and we have actively worked for the last 2 years and will again, and we're going to need your help to pass American laws for American courts.
Amen.
Rabbi Golden, Magen David Synagogue, and Titusville Patriots, and I have purged my synagogue of liberals.
We need a whole nother breakout session on how he did that.
Billy Vaughn, the name of our website is forourson.us. Karen and I are engaged culturally against our son Aaron, SEAL Team 6. I'm sorry. He was killed in the chopper crash August 6th when all the SEALs were on that chopper. Aaron was engaged kinetically. And as I said, Karen and I are engaged culturally against the enemies of our republic, within and without.
Wow. Thank you for your courage. Very appropriate. Very appropriate. Ladies and gentlemen, this concludes our session. Thank you for coming. God bless you and God bless America.
Just, can I say one thing? Can I say one thing? Go ahead. Listen, people, very, very fast. If we have to fight anything, it's very important to fight where the problem is in this nation. The lobbyists, Islamist lobbyists in Washington, D.C., this is where they're doing majority of their work. If you are a praying warrior, pray against this. If you are involved, start coming against those lobbyists that they are lobbying our leaders with monies and influences and trips to overseas. That's where it starts.
Several people have asked me to repeat the name of the book that I keep commending to you. It's called Sharia, The Threat to America. You can get it for free at shariathethreat.com if you want to download it. The course, which will launch on Tuesday, is called The Muslim Brotherhood in America, The Enemy Within. You can find it on Tuesday at muslimbrotherhoodinamerica.com. Thank you very much.